I do just want to bring you this update from the Associated Press that they say the Israeli military says forces have carried out small raids inside Gaza. Now, that is, like I say, just from the Associated Press. We have been waiting to see if the the defense forces were going to enter in this ground incursion. This is just from the Associated Press, so we're not sure what this means at this time, but Israeli military says forces have carried out small raids inside the Gaza Strip. Of course, we're going to keep you updated if this does mean the beginning of the ground incursion or if this is just some initial raids, but we will wait to see what happens there. But for the moment, joining me now is Jack Saba, who is a Palestinian citizen of Israeli descent. Well, he's a citizen of Israel, Palestinian citizen, and a rights activist. Thank you so much, Jack, for joining us. I do want to ask you what it's been like for you here since Saturday.
It's been, unnerving. It's been stressful. Just like other Israelis and other Palestinians, we woke up to horrendous news on Saturday morning, and it's, we have families and we have lives, and we are sitting and watching just more senseless violence and destruction since, and now things are heading into a very dangerous situation. I mean, it's already been dangerous for millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and so, but we are watching as things look like they're exacerbating and they're getting worse.
What's it like for you living here?
Yeah. I think, we are Palestinian citizens of Israel. We're 20% of the Israeli population. But we have a very unique insight into this conflict. We are both part of Israeli society in terms of, our day-to-day lives, but we are a minority and we are part of the Palestinian nation of people. And so day-to-day, you are a minority that feels like you are treated as the enemy of the state. And that's kind of a day-to-day, just walking, along in Israel. But in situations like this, it can get extremely scary because, the talk right now in Israel is to, against every Palestinian everywhere, any kind of dissent or opposition towards what the government has planned is seen as a threat. So it can be doubly as dangerous in times like this.
I do want to ask you, look, I've been here a week and I have been interviewing a lot of the families of those who were killed on Saturday. Yeah. And I've spent a lot of time living in the Middle East. I have a lot of people who follow me on social media are Arabs, are Muslim, are some of whom Palestinian. And you get a lot of commentary from people saying, but what about the Palestinians? Why are you ignoring the Palestinians? Without the first answer being, this is horrific, this is awful. And can you see why there's a whole community of people who will need Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims to say the words, Saturday's attack was disgusting.
Yes.
And won't get upset when they're asked to say those words. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, sort of, James, because for 75 years now, Palestinians have seen violence day-to-day in some areas more than others. And we have to kind of reinterpret it and redefine what violence is. In the West Bank, as you know, but not many people don't know that there's a military occupation. That means Palestinians live as subjects under military rule, and they've lived as such for 56 years. And the same goes for Gaza, that is also under siege. That in itself is a violent system that is oppressing people. And so that happens day in and day out. People are living under violence. And so when Palestinians are asked to condemn violence as if this is the start of violence, this is the frustration. Now, on the other hand, I do get Israelis that see the atrocities of Saturday and see the violence of Saturday and feel like, Israel can't be blamed now. We're the victims. But this is part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This did not happen in a vacuum. The violence that happened on Saturday is a result of more violence, and the violence that we're seeing now is a result of that violence. And so we just continue to see this violence grow. And so I think the level-headed, sane reaction to all of this right now should be a ceasefire and a stop to the senseless violence and killing.
Do you think that the occupation has dehumanized people to such an extent where they can't see Israeli suffering? And I'm not talking about people who live in Gaza, by the way. I'm talking about people on the streets of London, who deny that this has happened, people on the streets of Western capital cities, and I'm also talking about people on the streets of places like, we've seen them in Amman, Jordan, and in Beirut, who will say that Israelis deserved this. Can you see how occupation may have dehumanized to a certain extent?
I mean, I totally agree. I think that Israeli government policies of occupation and continued occupation are holding both sides, Palestinians and Israelis, as captives in this conflict. You know, a lot of times the Israelis say Hamas is holding Palestinians as human shields. I feel the same is happening with Israelis, that the Israeli government, by promoting policies that are perpetuating this conflict and continuing violence against Palestinians, are causing more violence towards Israelis that are paying the price. Regular Israeli families are the ones that are paying the price, and then the world, as you say, dehumanizes them because they're seen as perpetrators as part of this larger conflict. But the average Israeli living here does not see this on the day-to-day. They are disconnected from the occupation, and that is part of the problem. I think a percentage of Israelis do know about the occupation. They choose to ignore it because it's convenient, but a large segment of the Israeli population does not see it. And so this dehumanization isn't helpful. What is helpful is to realize that there are families paying the price, both sides, because of Israeli policies of continued military occupation and continued military violence.
I mean, how do you feel when you see protests and there are people say death to Israel, and in a response to a horrific terror attack? I mean, those people along the border, by the way, in the kibbutzes, I mean, we were speaking about this before, a lot of those people, Israelis, promoted peace with the Palestinians. And yet now we see these protests and slogans online about death to Israel. And, you know, it feels like it's a reaction which is getting completely out of control. I mean, how does it make you feel when you see these slogans in these protests?
Look, again, this is part of the problem, that it's zero-sum. It's us versus them, and you see that indiscriminate violence is going to, you know, cause harm to those that are working towards peace, whether on the Palestinian side or the Israeli side. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem that, I mean, Israel right now, the rhetoric inside of Israel is you're either with us or against us. Even with this, you know, with the bombing of Gaza, there's been over 500 children that have been killed in just the past few days. So this is not zero-sum. You cannot take it has to be a more nuanced conversation about what the way forward is, what the reaction should be, and how we can live here as human beings and not have to pay this price with our families, with, you know, whether they're working towards peace or part of the problem.
Thank you for coming to talk to me. Really grateful.
Thank you for having me.
Look, nuance has always been hard in this conflict, but it feels like this week there's been none whatsoever, sadly. Palestinian rights activist Jack Saba, thank you.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.